Hey there, welcome back to the Support Ops Hangout. This is our weekly podcast that helps you deliver a better support experience to your customers. I'm your host, Chase Clemens. On today's show, it's a very special one. It's our 100th episode, and if I had like fancy graphics, we would do the "it's happening" and everything else behind me, but I don't. So you just get us and our excited faces. Going to be a really awesome show, really special. Before we dive into the topic and everything, let's go ahead and meet everyone that made this possible. Well, as far as like our panelists made it possible. First up is Carolyn from Buffer. How's Bufferland?
Bufferland is great. Thank you.
And then Chase Livingston from Automaticland. Is that what we decided? I forget.
Yeah, why not? Automatic is good. Great. Wonderful.
And fresh off his random trip to, I won't say random, it was like a honeymoon.
So you already said random. You can't not say it after you say it. That's perfect.
Fresh off his fabulous trip to Australia, Jeff from Wistias. How was it?
It was great. It was great. Thank you, Chase. It was very random.
Well, I think it was random how we found out about it. It was one of those, like, just random, like, oh, by the way, I'm gone for the rest of the day and, like, 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So that was the random. It was fun. It keeps things interesting. And
Did you call it a honeymoon, by the way?
No, we did not.
Oh.
Okay, so it's random.
Yep.
So he went on a trip to Australia at a predetermined set time. And, yeah.
Yes, that all sounds right.
All right, so this is, like we mentioned, the 100th episode, which is pretty awesome. I when we started this back in, good grief, like what? I think Carolyn figured it out. That was like 2 years ago, right?
April 2013 is when you first emailed me about it.
Insane. I had no idea. I thought it was going to be like, 30 episodes and we're done. And then we hit 50, and then we hit 75, and now we're at 100, and we've still got like just a whole list of things to talk about. So we're going to be around for a while, which is really exciting. But for this episode, I wanted to go back and kind of just do a big general like look back on all the episodes. Just because I think today we're all better at our game than we used to be, that both with the show, because I think we're better at that, but also just support in general. I think we've learned a lot along the way. So anyway, today we're basically going to be looking at what we know now about customer support and the customer experiences that we wished we had known 100 episodes ago when we started. So Carolyn, we'll throw it to you for the first one. What's, kind of just off the top of your head, what's one thing you know now that would have been really, really helpful to know when we started this way back in April?
So I'm not going to do it off the top of my head because I've been really thinking about this.
Of course you're prepped.
And to be honest, like, I racked my brain for like a immediately actionable like tip about like data response times or something. But I went a bit meta with it, as I am wont to do. And I just can't help but like keep coming back to this concept of like when we started this 2 years ago. I mean, we've talked a lot about it, that like support is hard, and support is you have to protect against burnout, and it's sometimes thankless, and like there's all these things that we and the whole industry talks a lot about, of the challenges of support, and you have to work Thanksgiving, and like there's just all these things that that make the job legitimately hard, but the thing that I think I wish I had fully recognized all that time ago, and probably I only really get in hindsight, is just the power of being part of a support team and the value that it brings to your life. Practicing listening and communication and empathy and care and assuming the best every single day of your life has this unbelievable positive effect on your life. And you learn how to take care of people, and you learn how to hear what people are really saying, and you learn how to separate the words from the anxieties that they're feeling, and then that's just the role. Then being part of a team, you learn how to talk about people and the challenges that they're having without putting them down, it's just practicing empathy and caring for others is like one of the most powerful things, and it's like better than therapy. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, and I'll try and cut myself off, but I think I'm going to have to write a blog post about it because it's just one of the few jobs in the world where you'll come out of it and you'll be a better friend and a better partner and a better daughter and a better family member, and like just all these things that is about basic human kindness and connection, and you get to practice it every day.
Abso-freaking-lutely. That's one of those where 2 years ago, well, yeah, because we started this after I'd been hired with Basecamp and everything else. It was I know personally me, I complained more, had more of a negative outlook on just some interactions with people and that kind of thing. And when you're in support doing it day after day, at some point it stops becoming a like fake phony thing that you have to do and actually becomes you, right? It no longer is I'm putting on this face to act like I'm smiling and that kind of thing. It's you generally are smiling while you're helping a frustrating customer, and that bleeds over into just all the other interactions you have with people in your life, friends, family, like you mentioned. Chase Livingston, it's the same kind of thing. Have you noticed? Because I mean, you started with Ubuntu and customer support about the same time I did.
Yeah. I would definitely echo what Carolyn said for sure. I find that surprising, and surprisingly often too. I can tell that being in support has a really big and great impact on just day-to-day life and that kind of thing. The other thing I would mention is before I started it's almost like you feel sort of like alone or lonely, like you don't know that, especially starting at Canonical. I was one of the only folks doing what I was doing in customer support there, and so just out of doing the show for 100 episodes now, like the community we built around it and that kind of thing, I think has been really huge. I've gotten to meet and talk to so many awesome listeners and other fellow support pros. Obviously is the big thing, introduced to so many people at different companies and have been able to learn from them and how they're doing support, at their various jobs. And so I think that for me is one of the biggest things that has come from the show, and the fact that we've been doing it for so long now is just the connections and the friends that I've made, from having been on the show and, running into people at conferences or WordCamps that are like, hey, I'm a big fan of support ops, and I love what you guys are doing. It's great to hear and great to get to meet people through that.
Yeah, I remember we were at UserConf, one of the ones in San Francisco, I think, something like that. Scott Tran came up to me and he was like, "You're Chase from Support Ops." I'm like, "Wait, you're like one of the two people that listen to this besides my mom?" And Jeff's mom. Jeff's mom listens to the show.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, see.
Mine doesn't.
It was cool, and it's been fun to see the community grow out of that, and just to see the relationships and how the things we learn to support, the empathy, the caring, and all that plays off into the others. Jeff, do you think you've become more like Carolyn had mentioned from working with support all this time?
Hang on, I just have to do this for both what Carolyn and what Chase said.
Jeff, our resident sound guy.
I thought that was really brilliant to come out first. Here's what I heard you ask: have you become more like Carolyn?
You just put unicorns and rainbows up.
Yes, I am wearing a unicorn and rainbow shirt right now. It's underneath my overshirt, but just believe me that it's under there. I think that this is true of so many jobs and so many industries, but there are a few that are like more that are more like in the lexicon, like more a part of the business of today framework than like the support person for a SaaS business, where it's like you're not just taking calls from someone who has to pay you, right? Like a Comcast support person. You're not just fielding calls from someone who bought something from you and then it broke, right? Like, working for like a made good company of the past, like servicing a warranty. It's like every month we have to re-earn the business of so many customers, and it's also happening in ways that are way more public than ever before. The fact that someone could just screenshot a support conversation they had with you, write a blog post, or tweet it, or whatever, means that private conversations are no longer private, and you really do have to learn how to have that empathy for the customer that's real and isn't just like, okay, once a day I can put on like a good face. It's 24 hours a day sometimes, especially in the early days. So yeah, I think that's huge. I wouldn't say that I've soaked it all up. I'm still a horrible curmudgeon, but for a lot of the people that Wisty has hired over the last 100 episodes, they're really good at it.
It's because we keep sending you listeners of support ops to hire, so.
That's right.
So you bring up a good point there as far as like putting on a face and things. Carolyn, do you think, is that kind of just where everyone starts? So I guess the question there is, when you go to hire somebody, are you looking for people that are going to grow that empathy, that caring side into what you have now, or are you looking for people that at the very least can put on a face and be happy, or fake happy?
Yeah, so to agree with Jeff also, I mean, I would say I have definitely not soaked it up either. There's still so many minutes a day, let alone days in a year, that I think, oh, I should probably be more gentle with this person, or have listened a little bit more closely and things like that. So I would say it's always a journey, yeah. I don't know if we could ever hire anybody who's perfect at it. But yeah, I think that's kind of a chicken and egg question. Obviously, we would love to have it be really natural. And we generally find people who legitimately love to solve problems and help people. I don't think that's exactly the same as being happy. Those are kind of two different categories, but it is true in sort of psychology and sociology and things like that it does often go behavior to thought as opposed to the other way around. I think you tend to think like, oh, if I make myself be in a good mood, then I can act like I'm in a good mood. And they show study after study that just pretending, like even just smiling at yourself in the mirror, or behaving in an upbeat and positive way, that directly does cause your mood to change and your mind to build those habits. So it's both. It's sort of starting from wanting to be in that space and legitimately getting joy from this sort of role. I mean, I don't know if you could fake it if you're not really somebody who loves to do this, but if you're having a tough day, you still have to show up for work. So figuring out those sort of processes to put yourself in the right state of mind is also valuable.
Not to balloon out the scope of this show, because I think we could have a 4-hour show on this, but on this, like, what did you learn over the last 100 episodes? But just to build on this point, I think that there's also the other side of the equation, which Carolyn just kind of like brought to my mind, which is not only as support people do I feel like we know a little bit more about how to provide great support and what the personal effects of being really good at support are. But there's also the other side. Like, I feel like we now know a little bit better how to value employees who do a really great job at this. And there's people in support forums and people that I meet all the time who they're obviously incredible support people, and they actually care about the people that they're talking to, and they work at a company that doesn't. And I don't think there's ever been a time like that. There's never been a better time than now to go find a company that actually does put that first, and that it is built into why they exist. And I just feel like every day I hear about more and more companies that that they may be small startups and I might forget about them very quickly, but just the impression that they leave on me is this came from caring about the customer rather than like oh, we're just going to be a unicorn real quick and get out with $1 billion, and who cares? And I think that's really amazing.
Yeah, that's one thing. I did not expect 100 episodes ago to be able to look at support as anything more than a cost center, just because that was the mindset of so many companies for so long. And now you're seeing the kind of the same thing we've been echoing for good grief, 100 episodes now, is that support is a feature of a product just like anything else, and you've got to take care of your team because they're taking care of your customers. Kind of like you mentioned earlier, your customers, you've got to re-earn them every single month, and you can't do that if you don't actually care about the people taking care of your customers. Jeff, always ballooning out the topic every time. Every time. Chase Livingston, you mentioned earlier kind of all the people, the listeners and the community you've got to meet after doing the show for this long. What's another thing that you 100 episodes ago you would have really wished you had known?
Man, that's tough to say. That, like Carolyn mentioned earlier, it's tough to boil it down to one tip. But there are a lot of things. I think just what I've learned from doing these shows and from getting to know the three of you has been really helpful in the way I've done support and the way I've looked at support and that kind of thing over these past 2 years, both through a transition to automatic now over 2.5 years ago or so and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's tough to boil it down to a single tip because there's so much. But if you're a new listener, I would say go back and listen to episodes 1 through 99, and you'll see everything that we've learned and talked about and all that kind of thing, and then come join us as we continue on.
I will say, so if you do go back and listen, make sure you at least watch a couple of YouTube videos because it's funny. Like you see Chase Livingston basically never change. Like beard's still there, flannel shirt's still there, and all the rest of us are different haircuts or different clothes or whatever. Chase Livingston's constant through all of them. It's great.
We're just trying to live up to the bar that he has set.
Yeah, he's figured it out. We're all just catching up.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, nothing says Livingston like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think that was one of our episodes too. Easter egg, go find it.
I have no doubt about it.
Oh, Jeff, what's your one thing?
So I agree with what Livingston was saying, that there have just been so many times over the first 99 episodes that you've asked a question and one of us has said, well, it really does depend, right? Or it's like hard to say for sure, right? And I feel that way, that there's so many things that are specific to your business and the founders on your team and the customers you're trying to get and all of that kind of stuff. But one thing that I wish I had understood 100 episodes ago, and it's not to say that I'm good at it now, but that we've had a lot of those moments over the first 99, is when do you start thinking critically about support? This is going to require a little bit of an explanation, but it's like in the early days, support is a function, right? You have customers, you have people using this thing that you built, and you got to support them, right? You have to support them. They're writing in, they're asking questions, they broke stuff, you got to help them fix it. And it's a function. It's a function that the CEO can do, the CTO can do, all these people are pitching in. But at some point, it goes from being a function to being an organization. And it goes from being something that you just do because you have to do, right, because it feels like the right thing to do, to being, like you were saying, a core feature of your offering, of your service. And at that point, or somewhere around then, you need to start really, like for me, it was I'm no longer working in support as much, I'm working on support. I'm thinking about what are the different levers that we have, how does support work, what's the flow that someone goes through, how do you scale the team, right, and keep it excellent. And you just have to make I think a very conscious decision as a support lead or someone who's been doing it, I guess, for a really long time, either or both, that at that point you're going to start thinking really critically about what you're doing and not just do like, well, the emails are coming in, someone's got to answer them. Oh, there's too many that we can't answer, so we'll just throw up a self-help page or site or whatever. You have to dig in a little bit more and start to really understand how everything is working. So I wish I had understood that and not kind of discovered it piecemeal from people being like, so, how do your docs perform? And it's like, I don't know. Our platform doesn't even tell me any of those things. And then someone was like, well, maybe you need to switch platforms. And that was like 3.5 years ago, and I rebuilt the docs just to be able to do that. Yeah, I wish that I had instead kind of taken a step back at some point and thought critically about the whole organization.
I thought you were just like born with that because like from the very beginning, I've always known you as the guy that's automate where you can and then be human where you can't. So I just thought like again, you were just born with that and you knew that about your docs.
Well, I appreciate that, and maybe I'm good at pretending. But I think that even when we started the show, I had been doing this for 3-4 years. So somewhere in that 3 to 4 year forest, I probably should have made that call to start thinking about it critically. I think some of our early support employees definitely would be nodding their heads right now, and they'd appreciate that. So for people who are, they're in the first 6 months and they feel like they're underwater, like that's totally normal. And to just be kind of going with the flow, it's totally normal. But know that at some point, and I don't know when it is, you have to make a conscious effort to think critically about what you're doing, and that's really important. But that to come in on day one and you're like, oh yeah, we've just started this app, let's like define our support philosophy, seems a little heavy-handed. So there's a balance there for sure.
Yeah, you're seeing it a little bit more nowadays, though, right? I mean, you're seeing support get involved earlier. Earlier in the product launch and having, instead of just throwing a product out there, there's at least like some kind of help site with some basic metrics. And so I think you're seeing that a little bit more nowadays, right? Or am I just making that up?
I think there are more examples to copy from.
Yeah.
And I think more people are doing it that way. And like I said, like a lot of people are building products now where supporting their customers is something that just feels like this is why we exist, right? Like no one is like shocked that they have support requests anymore when they launch a web product. So I think that like it occurs to just about everybody. Oh wait, we have to have a support email because every product ever has a support email. But yeah, there's certainly levels of depth that you'll need to go to at a certain point.
Yeah, and like you said, if you don't, then those private interactions that you have with customers become quickly public on Twitter. It's not like the old, let's write a letter to the editor that nobody's going to read in the newspaper kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so like Jeff mentioned, we could balloon this out, but we want to try to keep it at least a little bit tight because we know you've got, I don't know, other podcasts to listen to. I guess people do that. I don't know. My thing, and I was talking about this with a friend last week, maybe the week before, something like that. And I think it's one of the things that, even looking back, I've been with Basecamp for almost 5 years now. It was something that I wish I'd known back then. When I first got hired with Basecamp, So I got hired, and I figured, customer support was a brand new thing for me, especially like online SaaS support. I had been in restaurants before, I'd been in a public school as a teacher before, but online tech SaaS support was completely new to me. And I figured, maybe there's something to this, maybe there's not, but I figure if I flame out, at least like I can fall back, and people are always hiring restaurant managers, right? I can always go back to that. That's a good safety net. And I remember being at a dinner one night, and basically saying that to another person who had been in the support industry for a while, and they looked at me and they said, why? Why not continue in the support world? It's something you're good at. It's something that you've got a knack for. And I think I kind of brushed it off at that time and went with the philosophy of, well, at least I can always be a restaurant manager. It's not like I'm making a big career change. I wish I'd known then what I know now is that support can be a career, right? customer support can be a career. You can, it might not be a traditional career. It might not be one where you're climbing a ladder. There's, some companies do have junior support, senior support, team leads, managers, and all that. But there's a good chance you'll work at a company like ours where we don't really have that very much. So your career is going to look a little bit different than a traditional career path. But that said, you can still have a career in support. You can, be doing this for decades to come. And that's one of those where, you've got fantastic resources like our show or Support Driven or, Sarah Hatter's book. There's all sorts of these resources out there for you to help you get better doing your job and again, to make it a career. So that's my big thing. It's not, real long or anything like that. But I will pitch it to y'all before we head out into shout-outs and all that. What do you think, Carolyn? Can you, you're Chief Happiness Officer. Surely you think you can have a career in this, right?
Yes. I think kind of to throw back to what Jeff said, you can especially have a career in it and have it be a rewarding and exciting and positive thing for your life if you work for a company that values this function and an organization as it grows. So I certainly think so, but it does matter how much the founders and the decision makers on the team value this as a part of your marketing and as a part of your offering, but also as a part of your identity. And if you can find one of those companies, like Buffer, shameless plug, come work for us, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Livingston, what do you think? Career and support, yes?
Yeah, definitely. This is something that, as Automatic is growing so quickly and hiring so many happiness engineers, something that our support lead Andrew Spittle talks about a lot, is that support or a happiness engineer specifically at Automatic isn't just like a stepping stone or a foot in the door or anything like that for a designer, developer, whatever else you may think you want to do or whatever. But that instead, if you're applying for a happiness engineer job or you want to be a happiness engineer, one of the things that we really try to stress is that this is your career, and this is we don't look at it as a stepping stone or a foot in the door. We look at it, the folks that are really serious about it, and those of us who have been doing it and that kind of thing look at it as a career and plan to keep doing it for as long as we possibly can. And so not to belittle it in any way, thinking that of anything else other than a career, I think is something that is really important.
Jeff, what do you think? You get the last word.
Oh, absolutely. This is absolutely true, and I think it connects with what Carolyn was saying earlier. That what I've been amazed by over the time that we've been doing this is that we have many support people who don't do exactly the same function that they were doing 100 episodes ago, but they are still in customer-facing support. And that we haven't even begun, I think, to understand the full breadth of what support people can do in a highly functional organization, right? Customer success has kind of come up and been invented since we started this show, and now it's become like a full-fledged, you would have a separate customer success team from a support team. It's become another one of those flagpole organizations that you might want to have in your company, and I think that we have others, right? We have a model that connects support people with other parts of the company, and we feel like that's extremely valuable, and it's something that on your first day you can't do, right? You can't be a product liaison support person on your first day. It takes a really long time, and you have to have a special aptitude for understanding how the product works. But there's other sides of it, right? There's people who they'd rather be on the sort of front end of the experience, right? Holding someone's hand and taking them through that first touch. There's someone who'd rather be only on the power user side, and they're like, you've been here for a really long time, you're doing stuff no one else is doing, and that's what I really love. There's people who love new features. There's people who love getting rid of old features. There's just so far to go that I think it will be many, many careers on end for people. And then there's just the perfect person who just loves to wake up every morning and crack open their laptop and just help some people out, right? They don't need any specialization. They just want to be there in their PJs, like helping somebody out while they drink their coffee. And yeah, I think that's going to be around and really fulfilling for people for a long time.
I will say it was the best feeling in the world the day after Thanksgiving to wake up, don't even bother getting out of pajamas, right? And just sit down with a cup of coffee and to answer some tickets. It was, I don't know, it was just a nice way to ease back in after the holidays. So
I think a wonderful thing about being a support person, or at least like I don't do it on a daily basis, but I still have I still can slip into the skills very easily. I have a lot of practice at it. Is that there is no other function, and I've done an awful lot of other functions, but there's really no other function that I've ever done that gets you as close to the customer and gets them value as fast, right? As part of the trip that you were picking on me for taking, we had many such layovers, and even if you only get Wi-Fi for 5 minutes, there's no impact I can have on the marketing side. There's very little impact I can have on the product side or engineering side or ops side or management side. But if I can open up the inbox and answer a few questions for people a little bit faster, they go on to do like amazing things that they couldn't have done that fast without my response. Yeah, there's just a lot of value there. I hope more people will pick up that job.
yeah, now we need I don't know, like a Christmas edition of Support Ops. It's a wonderful support life. I know.
I should write a book.
Oh, all right. That's what we think. Let us know what. I'm sure there are some of us, like Jeff's mom and my mom, that have been listening to this for 100 episodes. Surely there's one more person out there. But anyways, let us know. What you know now that you wish you had known. 10 episodes ago, 20 episodes ago, or 50 episodes. However many. Hit us up on Twitter. We're at SupportOps there. You can send us an email, hello@supportops.co, or you can go over to the supportops.co site. There's a contact page there. We're support people. It's really easy to get in touch with us. It's not hard. That said, that brings us to my favorite part of each and every week with these folks. It's this week's shout-outs. These are the things that are making us happy. So happy you want to shout them out from the rooftops to let you know you should be just doing whatever it is that we're doing at that moment. All right, let's run down the line. Carolyn, what do you got?
Is this when I tell my joke, or is that going to be a separate
section? Okay. Go ahead and tell your joke.
Okay. I also have a shout-out, but okay. Why did Adele cross the road?
Should I actually answer that?
Yeah,
to get to the other side?
To say hello from the other side.
Yes!
That's a great joke. I love
10 points, Chase Livingston. Good job.
That was great. That was great.
So my actual shout-out is this really tiny UX experience, but the blog that Jeff is always talking about, First Round Review, has this interesting sort of progress bar. I tweeted about this too. You probably saw it. But there's this teeny little progress bar that fills in with blue as you scroll down the page, and it shows you how far you are on the page. And I thought that was so interesting because I never noticed how many times I do the scroll wiggle to see where the scroll bar is when I'm reading an article and I don't know how far I am and I don't know how long is left in it. And that brings up a whole set of questions about my ability to focus for longer than 8 minutes. But it's really comforting because you can kind of see how far you're going and it keeps you in the moment, which I thought was cool.
Nice. Chase Livingston, what do you got?
So this is, I guess, a little bit of a plug, but at Automatic we released the WordPress Mac app this past week, well, 2 weeks ago, I guess now, because we didn't do an episode last week. But anyway, I'm sure Chase will have a link to it in the show notes, but check it out. I played a incredibly small part in being an employee of Automatic that released this, but there was a lot of people that worked a lot harder on it than I put into it, and so check it out. It's a really interesting app and allows you to do some pretty cool stuff with all of your WordPress sites.
Awesome. Jeff, what you got?
So the first one is I have to go back to a shout out that Carolyn gave about 6 months ago. I'm just going to throw a number out and say episode 34. She shouted out the book The Martian, and I saw the movie and then read the book on my trip, and it was awesome. So a shout out following up on a previous shout out. My product techie shout out, my Chase Livingston shout out is High Five. It's like I have no idea what to call it, but it's something where you can set up a camera in your office, connect it to a laptop and or a TV, and then it actually works as opposed to the millions of other products we've tried. I just went through their setup process today because we got one in one of our conference rooms, and it worked really well as opposed to all of the 20 million other products that we've tried to do this. So if you're trying to solve the problem of you either can't have conference calls, like video conference calls, and have them work, or you can't reliably connect your laptop to the TV, which, come on, how is it that difficult in 2015? Check out High Five. Then my Homer shout out is for Chase Clemens, obviously, because that guy got this group together 99 episodes ago, almost 100 episodes ago, and I've certainly learned a lot and had a blast. So, Chase Clemens, don't let it go to your head.
I demand a parade in my honor next week.
Yeah, and there's an ant parade out on your sidewalk right now. I scheduled it just for you.
That'll work. As long as it's a parade of some sort, I'm good. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was one of those where I just show up each week and ask you a question. It's not that hard at the end of the day. I mean, not saying
there's
like
a lot
replace
more work
me.
that goes on
Please don't
behind.
replace me.
I think we should do an episode just on all the work that Chase does behind the scenes. For anyone listening, he tells us the answers to all of the things that we say.
Yeah,
we're all
it's
reading from
scripted.
scripts. We're all paid actors.
Yeah, it's like Bravo, right? It's like
Wait, you guys
reality
get paid?
TV. Paid in hugs and kindness and buffer unicorns and rainbows and yeah.
We get paid in cake, Livingston.
Okay, I need to get in on this apparently.
Oh, all right. First, my joke, because Carolyn had a chicken one, and it reminded me of a chicken one. So, my joke for this week: why do chicken coops only have 2 doors? Chase Livingston didn't have an answer? What? Come on.
Something about sedans.
It is, because if they had 4 doors, it'd be chicken sedans.
I can't believe you got that. Wow, I have to give you one of these. Have you heard this before?
No, but coop? No? Okay.
I get it now.
It's not a funny joke, no matter how he explains it.
It is a funny joke.
I don't know. I thought that was amusing. Maybe that was me. Anyway.
That's a farm joke. Yeah, that's one.
Shout out first off to these lovely 3 folks, because without them we couldn't do any of this, and it's one of those where Carolyn brought up the email. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll make sure to put it in the show notes, but I basically sent that email out to all 3 of them. It was like, hey, random idea, totally understand you're all super busy and that you might not even have time, but what if? And then we're still here 100 episodes later, which is pretty cool. So thanks, guys and lady, for just sticking with me through all this, because in those early episodes it was rough. I had no idea what I was doing. It was rough. We kind of got a rhythm down here finally, after 100 episodes. And then other shout out just to the listeners, because that was one of those where if we were still listening to this and there was only 2 moms listening to this, then we probably wouldn't be doing it. But we have a very devoted listener base, and it's been really awesome just to not only, do shows on topics that y'all care about, but also to be here whenever you have questions of all of us, whether it's at conferences, random co-working spots, random emails that we've all gotten, or tweets, that kind of thing. It's been a lot of fun for us to not only do the show, but also to help out, helping you do support at your company, because Jeff mentioned earlier, every company is different. So what works for me at Basecamp doesn't work for Carolyn at Buffer. And I think that's one of the real highlights of the show, being able to have 4 different companies and 4 different people offer up advice to everybody. So, like I said, big kudos to Chase, Carolyn, and Jeff, and then big kudos to all of our listeners, because we're at episode 100. I mean, that's awesome, freaking awesome, that we made it there. So we have some awesome episodes planned out in the future, a couple of different ideas that we want to try, all sorts of just new things. But we're still going to be the same support people where you come to get support advice about. So it's going to be awesome. I will give you a heads up. Chase is having a kid. I'm having a kid. We kind of don't know what the next couple of months will be like. That's one of those where we're going to try to do as many shows as we can, but between that and the holidays and everything else, it might be a little sporadic. I'm still trying to figure out how I can record and not worry about the kid in the other room, but we're going to make it work. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. So yeah, that's enough of my spiel. We'll have everything up in the show notes, supportops.co. Thanks again to Carolyn, Chase, and Jeff, because they are fantastic. Thanks again to our listeners, because you are fantastic. And join us again next week, same bat time, same bat channel, for episode 101 in this never-ending support podcast. So until we see you then, have an awesome week.